Hello friends, I am Ajit Ranade from Friends of India. Today, 26th of November is a very important day in the history of India, a day to remember the significance of Indian Constitution. Constitution Day, also known as Samvidhan Divas, is celebrated in India on 26th of November every year to commemorate the adoption of Constitution in India. On this day, 26 November 1949, the Constituent Assembly of India adopted the Constitution of India and it came into effect on 26th of January 1950. The Government of India declared 26th November as a Constitution Day on 19th of November 2015 by a Gazette notification. Various departments of the Indian government celebrate National Constitution Day. National Constitution Day is also celebrated in schools and colleges to spread awareness about the vitality of the Indian Constitution and its effect on our everyday life. Today, here in Frankfurt, we are here with some experts and we will talk about Indian Constitution, the experience with India, and today we have Ms. Shilpa Gadmade. She is the Indian lawyer practicing currently in Frankfurt, Germany. We have Mr. Werner Hessen. Mr. Hessen has spent a lot of time in India and he has a lot to say about India. And the chairperson of European Union, Klaus Klipp, is also with us. So thank you so much, Klaus, Mr. Hessen, and Shilpa for joining us today. And of course, we have Kamal Vatsayan. So Kamal is also, he used to be the convener of Friends of India in 2019. So thank you all. Thank you all for joining today's session. I will request maybe starting with Shilpa. Maybe Shilpa, you can briefly introduce yourself.
Thank you, Ajit. Yes, my name is Shilpa Gadmade, and as Ajit already mentioned, by qualification, I'm an Indian lawyer who is living in Germany since last 10 years. And this constitution, subject of constitution and constitution itself is very close to my heart because I have studied it as student of law in India, and also I got an opportunity to teach as lecturer in India on this particular subject. So thanks a lot. I'm working here now in compliance as compliance officer in Selective RA, and I'll be happy to speak about Indian Constitution.
Thank you so much, Shilpa. So may I request Mr. Hessen, a lot of people know about you and your connection with India, but still for our audience, may I request you to introduce yourself and please.
Thank you, Ajit. With pleasure. My connections with India started way back in 1985. I'm an aviation veteran, an old Indian hand, because almost all my professional life I spent for Lufthansa German Airlines. And out of the 40 years, the most exciting ones, 13 years I spent in India. My last position was Director South Asia, dealing with India being the country representative and the coordinator for all the corporate affairs of Lufthansa. After retirement, I joined Dr. Wamser and Batra, which is a consultancy firm dealing with India, with our customers, our clients are medium-sized companies which want to establish a new business in India. And apart from my professional activities, I'm a lecturer at the University of Applied Science at Worms, and my subject is international business and intercultural management. That's me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hessen. Over to Klaus.
Yeah, I'm Klaus Klipp. I'm chair of Europa Union Frankfurt. Europa Union is a civil society organization in which people come together to push for further European integration. We know today that without people in Europa Union and in the other European countries, which those activists, they are called the European movement. Without those people from civil society, we wouldn't have European Union as of today, because it came the initiative really came from this civil society. And well, I think there are interesting points also in the context with India, but let's talk about this.
Thank you so much, Klaus. And we have been actively watching like your activities at Europa Union since last few years. Thank you so much. Then I will request Kamal Wasain to introduce and take it over for the further questions.
Thank you, Ajit. Thank you all for sharing. I'm as Ajit mentioned, I was convener in 2019 for Friends of India, and now also working with Europa Union together with Klaus as the executive board member. And now I'm very happy to receive and get introduced to Herr Werner, Shilpa, new colleagues here. I think Indian Constitution and Constitution in general is very important. And today's topic really touches the current ongoing discussions also in India, how much Constitution is important. Looking forward for your valuable feedback and work together on this. Yeah. I will now take over. So I think just to maybe start, I'll request Ms. Shilpa to share her words about Indian Constitution, and also maybe highlighting certain benefits and what was the reason of the Constitution to come up in the past.
Yes, sure, Kamal, thank you. So I would like to start speaking about Indian Constitution with Preamble, because this is very important part of the Indian Constitution. So the Preamble of the Indian Constitution starts with, "We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation." And this preamble was adopted by the Constituent Assembly on 26th day of November in 1949. And this is a very important part where we try to bring together what was lacking in British India, or say when it was ruled under the colonization. And as Ajit correctly mentioned, that 26th November is celebrated as Constitution Day or Samvidhan Divas. And very interesting thing is this document, which is Indian Constitution, was handwritten, and it contains 90,000 words. And it also, people say that it is a guiding light for the nation to proceed. And as we all know, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar played very important role, as he was chairperson of the drafting committee. And under his guidance, the committee member worked more than 2 years, and many meetings took place, and then they came up with this draft. And as we also know that this is influenced by different nations, because the drafting committee wanted to include from the different democracy various aspects. And therefore you can see that our Indian Constitution is also influenced by French Constitution, Constitution of Japan, Ireland, Canada. These are just few names. You can also talk about British Constitution and other things. And as Kamal mentioned, what is the objective, or what is the reason why we thought about having Constitution? If you look at the background, at that time, we had more than 200 years of colonial rule. At that time, there was mass-based freedom struggle. The recent partition which took place, there was communal violence which had taken place at that moment, at that time, and there was also national movement. So it was very important to take into consideration all these aspects, and also the people who were taking part in making this constitution, they were concerned about the aspiration of the people of India, and also integrity and unity of the country, because it was, with the recent partition and fresh freedom, they wanted to be sure that each and every religion, as well as all other aspects, are taken into consideration. So with this objective, this constitution was made, and there are different features. I will just quickly touch upon them. So this constitution has feature of federalism, where there is existence of more than one level of government in the country, because we wanted to avoid that someone who's sitting in Delhi making all the decision for each and every state. That's why it was at state level, and at union level you can see distribution of power is made. Also, we adopted with the Constitution of India parliamentary form of government, and we also make sure that there will be segregation or separation of powers, and that's why we have three important organs. One is legislature, another is executive, and third one is judiciary. And Indian Constitution wants, and people of India as well, that these three organs act as or balance of power. It will not be only at legislature or only at executive or only at the hands of judiciary. So this balance of power should be maintained. And there is one more important thing, we can call it conscience of Indian Constitution, and that is fundamental rights. There are fundamental rights which are given by the Constitution, and which is also important. Another very interesting and important aspect is secularism. Indian Constitution made a secular state should be given, and there should not, the state or union should not promote only one religion as a state religion. So these are, I would say, few important key elements, key features. And just to give you a brief idea, because if I keep on talking about Constitution, I think it will take hours. So just to give you a brief idea, the currently Constitution of India has 448 articles, which are divided into 25 parts, and it has 12 schedules. And as of January 25, 2020, we have 104 amendments. 104 amendments has taken place. So I think this is something very brief introduction about Indian Constitution. And I would like to stop just by mentioning one more point, that Constitution is considered as a living document which adapts to the situation and circumstances which are changing. That's why you can see that although we adopted in the Indian Constitution in 1949, it still is good, and we are proud to have such a far-sighted Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Ms. Shilpa. The 2 points which we actually took out also from this was that Constitution is a working document, and also that the Constitution has evolved and provided the basis of unity and diversity in India. Yeah, so that's the 2 key messages we also took out. I would request now to continue forward to Mr. Herrhisen. Yeah, Herrhisen, if you can share something about German Constitution and your experience with India.
Exactly. Thank you for inviting me once more. I would like to comment on the constitutions of India and Germany from not from a lawyer's point of view, but from a person who has lived in India, who has experienced India. And for me, the constitution of India was like an umbrella, providing, the conditions of life and the development, and supporting the developments of India. So I first arrived in the year 1985, which was just halfway of India's constitution, as you may recall. At that time, it was 35 years old, and my experience are now covering the last 35 years, how India has developed. And you will be surprised that what all happened during, these 35 years. Thanks to the Constitution of India. But what I have done is also, I have made a comparison between the German Constitution and the Indian Constitution. Because I'm interested in politics, I'm interested in history, and I just wanted to find out, what do both constitutions have in common? And interestingly, both constitutions have been passed to the parliaments, respective parliaments, in the same year of 1949. And the Indian Constitution, as Shilpa mentioned, came into force in 1950. That's why we're celebrating the 70th anniversary. And both constitutions do feature, Western elements, as Shilpi was already expressing. It was a selection of, many important other constitutions which were taken into account to make it a sort of a state-of-the-art constitution, in my simple words, when it was introduced. And what is also important, which has been mentioned, but I would like to stress it again, because as we see nowadays in the modern world, federalism is important. It was an element from the very beginning. And the last point, which is common in both constitutions, is they are stipulating a secular government, which is again something which we all appreciate, because it helps facilitate also the lives of communities living in India and abroad, and of course in Germany. I said I first came to India in 85, and the world was not as it is today, as you can imagine, and how different it was. I would like to briefly touch, just to let you share in my experience, and to let you know, what thanks to the Constitution was possible. Because India evolved from a development country into an emerging economy. And as we can see today, as of today, last week, India is also a proud member of the G20, showing the importance amongst the leading countries in the world where India stands now. India has also cast off totally its colonial shackles. Most of you will probably not remember, but in the 60s, 70s, or even beginning of 18th, behavior of people, particularly the elder generation, was very much influenced by the behavior of colonial rule. But the more, the society was changing, getting younger, the more this was disappearing. And I would say, thanks God it did. And particularly the younger generation of India is a prime example how India has changed. Forward-thinking, open-minded, open to the world, understanding its new role, and developing an element of pride and self-confidence which was not there in the past. So thanks to the Constitution, thanks to the freedom which the Constitution has provided, these developments have been possible. And I also could, thanks to this framework which was provided, see how India was developing. After the economy was more liberalized. I remember, when we arrived in 85, there were only 2 cars available. Our boys thought that India is a country only having vintage cars. But you remember at that time it was only the Ambassador and the Fiat. It was a similar situation as it was in the former GDR. And now you know what is going on Indian roads as today. Or the communication, the state of communication in the 80s. We had one English channel, Doordarshan, broadcasting for maximum 3 hours news and a cultural program. And it took me nearly a year to get a private telephone connection, a landline, so to speak, at that time, with a lot of efforts and connections, and now almost everyone has a mobile phone. So communication, a back leap forward and meeting world standards today. And again, it shows also when you look at the developments of infrastructure, how India developed. Sometimes I hear from people who don't know India so well that India is still undergoing a slow process, or India should be much faster as compared to China and so on. But if you have lived with India, in India, as I have done for so many years, for me, it was a dramatic development. It was fast. It has never been that fast before. Looking at the developments of road system, the new ports which have come up, which were modernized. And a prime example, believe it or not, are the airports. I mean, we are thinking of Berlin Airport and we are complaining about Germans and the world is laughing at us. During my time between 2005 and 2010, 5 brand new airports, hub airports of the size of Munich, have been implemented in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, and in Delhi. And they stayed within a 5-year plan. This is also India. This is also what is possible today. Or think of the IT industry. In the 80s, that was just a modest beginning, and now India is playing in the first league in the world. Or think of space technology. Indian rockets are, bringing or transporting European satellites into space. Impossible to think about it in the 70s or the 80s even. Or when I arrived, research of development, R&D business was not possible in India. I mean, people would never think about India having the manpower, the brains of doing so. But nowadays, companies like Bosch, Telecom, others, they have their R&D centers in India. So that shows, how much India has developed, and that only is possible if the constitution gives the freedom to the people, to the trade, to the manufacturers, and so on, to operate like this. And I would like to conclude with a very, very personal impression or experience I had, because it was a great privilege. I got to know the son of the late president of India, Dr. S.D. Sharma, who was in the board of a company I was working for. And he invited me to come to Rashtrapati Bhavan to a personal session. So we are staying in the offices of his father, the late president, S.D. Sharma, and he explained me all the rooms and premises of the building, where all these preparations of the Indian constitutions have taken place, where, people were debating, where the announcements were made. And that was a first impression historically, about the people who have worked, established it, and where it was done. So if I look back, it was a constitution which provided security to the country, prosperity in a big way, and growth. And I can only wish that India will continue in this way on a sustainable basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harrison. It was very inspiring to hear also the Indian story from your side, how you saw that. And I think also a few learnings from there, which we will talk about at the end. Now, I would request Herr Kraus from European Union Frankfurt, chairman, to share his view about the European Union Constitution, the status, the need, and your view, Klaus, about the India from your side.
Okay. I think I should start with something in the middle, in the center of Frankfurt, which is on Römerberg in front of the city hall. There is a fountain, and if you really look, now you can go there and see it because there is no Christmas market this year. There's a fountain, and if you look on this fountain, you see Justitia, the goddess of justice, with a scale in one hand and a sword in the other hand. And I have been there with some people from India, and they said, "Oh, we know this. We know what this is." Okay, so you see that there is something that is very common, if you want, because this question of justice, this question of the rule of law. Technically, it's the rule of law, and people say, "What the hell is that?" Or the state of law. So you don't understand. In reality, it's about justice. Okay, and I think Shipa just read that from the preamble of the Indian Constitution, where it says, "We, the people of India," and so on and so on, came together to have. And then the first point that is mentioned is justice. Okay, so this is really a crucial issue that. It brings together India, Germany, and also European Union. Because for the European Union, the very reason why European Union was created was to create a rule of law for the territory of the European Union. That is also why the European Court of Justice that takes the important decisions on European law. The British, in the context of the Brexit, they hated the European Court of Justice because that court could take decisions that would play a role in the context of the United Kingdom. And even in British tabloid papers, were read by people who wouldn't know what the European Court of Justice is, they would discuss about what this bad Court of Justice would do. And if you look around in the world today, European Union has a lot of, I would say, sometimes big-time enemies. And they hate European Union, and you know why they hate it. They hate European Union because European Union is an area of where the rule of law is applied, where people at least try to live in a context of justice. That is, in the end, an old dream of humanity, this idea of living in a context where justice is prevailing. And European Union tries to put this in place. There is not a constitution of the European Union. There is a series of treaties, altogether 8 treaties, step by step, always a little bit ever closer European Union that has been developed. Also, European Union started in the beginning in 1952 with 6 countries, and now we are 27, as you all know, so the number has increased. But the idea behind it, to establish a rule of law, that has been always there. And by the way, Indian Constitution on the 26th of November, German Constitution in 1949, like the Indian Constitution. And there's another thing. In November 1945, there was the Nuremberg trials after the Second World War, where the Nazi war criminals were prosecuted. And that was the first time in an international context where people tried to establish like an international court of criminal law. And that has been done after the Yugoslav wars and so on and so on. There are other examples for this. So there is this ongoing idea, this ongoing initiative to establish against brutality, against wars, against people that don't respect any rules and other things, to establish really a system of legal regulations of in the end for normal people, that is something that is justice. Okay, so European Union also has the Charter of Fundamental Rights, which is binding for the European Union. And there, by the way, you find something that you also find, the first paragraph starts with something that you see also in the German constitution, that says human dignity is something that has to be respected always. And this is how the European Charter of Fundamental Rights starts. And yeah, so I think you see that, and by the way, just to explain that, when you look into those treaties of European Union, there's a lot of paragraphs, there's a lot of paper, it's many different treaties, they have protocols, amendments, addendums, and so on and so on. So it's really, really complex. It doesn't make much sense to go into detail, but what I try to explain about that, it is establishing a system of legal security and these things, that is really the basis, and that is the really important point. And then there is a lot of similarities between Indian constitution, European, if you want, constitution, because those treaties in the end, they are the common basis for European Union, and also the constitution of Germany, which is the federal system, which is this idea of unity in diversity. That's the official slogan of European Union, and you have a very similar situation in India. In a way, in Germany, we don't talk so much about it, but we do have that too. There is a big difference between Bavaria and if you go to the North Sea coast, in the way how people live, how they think, how they talk, and so on and so on. And the secularity is also something that is extremely important, I think. And I would like to add another point, that it's always, when you have a constitution, that always plays an important role, that is that you also have minority rights. Because in a democratic system, whether it's a bi-party system or it's a system with many parties, like in Germany, there comes always the point where one is losing and one is winning. You have elections, and after 4 years, or after the first election, or the second or third, at one point, majorities change, and then you are in the role of minority. So that is an intelligent way of making sure that the system is functioning, that you always protect minorities in such a context. So that's how I look at the subject, and I think this is something that really brings strongly together India and European Union issues, and apart from the German experience. Now, if you ask me for my Indian experience is very much working with you guys, Ajit and Kamal, and the other people from the Indo-German Vereine, from the associations, working also with people in the consulate. And I think we are on the way, step by step, more and more understanding each other, step by step doing more and more activities with each other. And I must say, this is really great to see. And maybe let me finish in the last point. There is, in a global context, if you want, we shouldn't forget that India is the biggest democracy in the world. And I mentioned before, European Union has so many enemies. They hate us for trying to respect the law. So we need allies, we need friends. And a country like India, with a constitution like India, where there is a democracy, is a natural ally for a complex situation like European Union. And that really is something that is bringing us together. Maybe I finish here, okay?
Thank you, Klaus, for sharing. I think we got a very good view from all of you experts, or sharing about Indian Constitution, German Constitution, also about European Constitution. I would like to now take few minutes just to talk about similarities and evolution. Yeah. So some things which I also noted during the discussion, and also from my learnings. The German Constitution and Indian Constitution was written almost at the same time. You also highlighted 1949, the documentation came into existence, and in 1950s that was implemented. Going forward, as I think it was mentioned by Harizan earlier, or Shilpa, that we have taken learnings from different European constitutions. One of them is definitely British. There was a lot of borrowings taken from the British Parliament work. Then this is called statutes, which is enacted by British Parliament. Then was taken over from the French, the words about liberty, equality, and fraternity. And the German Constitution, the Weimar Constitution, which was providing us the fundamental rights during the emergency rule. I think these are the three very good learnings taken from the European countries. And as Klaus, you were mentioning, India is like, you can say, a similar experience like Europe you have now. And you are, I think, what you call treaty was like a treaty establishing a constitution for Europe, right? It was a long try, 25 member states sit down together. And I think the similar way, different states of India are set together at some point of time. And they came up with this constitution, which is about unity and diversity, about justice for all, respecting or helping the minorities, as colleagues were highlighting. So I think we have a lot of similarities and a lot of evolution going on. It's a working document. It will help the people as we will go forward. Many things will come which will be new challenges and some amendments. And I think definitely the constitution is one of the bases which balances the power between different governments. And that's, I think, just I would also like to conclude at this point and hand over back to Ajit for final closure. Thanks to you all. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kamal, and thank you so much, Shilpa, Mr. Hilson, and Mr. Clip. Thank you for your valuable time and all the inputs that you have shared. And let's work together And at the end, what I would like to say is, let us resolve that we, the people of India, rather I would say the people of the democratic countries of the world, will continuously strive to achieve the ideals of our constitution and realize the dreams of millions of our fellow citizens. So long live democracy and long live the constitution of all the democratic countries. And this is the, I would say, this one learning we can take, I think, from the discussion. Thank you so much again. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Klaus. Thank you, Reason and Shilpa. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Kamalji.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you
It
all.
was a pleasure.